What if the day we celebrate as America's birth wasn't just about freedom, but a web of secret societies and hidden agendas that shaped the New World Order? Welcome back to the Jeremy Ryan Slate Show. I am your host, Jeremy Ryan Slate, the CEO and co-founder of Command Your Brand, your source for appearing on top podcasts as a guest. Check us out over at commandyourbrand.com. Reminder to like this video, leave us a comment, and smash that subscribe button if you want to learn more hidden history. Also, you can find me on X. I am at Jeremy Ryan Slate over there as well. And today we're unpacking one of the most iconic dates in American history. What really happened on July 4th, 1776? As a podcaster who's chatted with historians and theorists alike, here's why I find this fascinating. This wasn't just a declaration. It was a bold rebellion against an empire laced with Enlightenment ideals and maybe some shadowy influences. We'll stick to verifiable facts from sources like the National Archives, the Library of Congress, and Britannica, about 60% straight history, while exploring plausible conspiracy theories that I always enjoy, and that's about 40% of it. So settle in, and let's rewrite what you thought you knew about Independence Day. To get why July 4th, 1776 matters, we need to rewind to the spark that ignited the American Revolution. It all stems from the mid-1700s, when Britain's 13 American colonies, stretching from Massachusetts in the north to Georgia in the south, were chafing under imperial rule. After the French and Indian War ended in 1763, Britain was drowning in debt, so Parliament slapped taxes on the colonies without representation. The Stamp Act of 1765, taxing paper goods like newspapers and legal documents, kicked off protests for no taxation without representation, and that became the rallying cry for the Library of Congress records. This escalated in Boston, Massachusetts. On March 5th, 1770, the Boston Massacre saw British troops fire on a crowd, killing 5 colonists, including Crispus Attucks, an African-American sailor, a flashpoint immortalized in Paul Revere's engravings. Then, the Tea Act of 1773 led to the Boston Tea Party on December 16th, where the Sons of Liberty, disguised as Mohawk Indians, dumped 342 chests of tea into the harbor, protesting monopolies. Britain retaliated with the Intolerable Acts of 1774, closing Boston Harbor and quartering troops in American homes. This unified the colonies. The First Continental Congress met in Philadelphia's Carpenter's Hall from September 5th to October 26th, 1774, with delegates like George Washington from Virginia and John Adams from Massachusetts. They boycotted British goods and petitioned the King George III. But war erupted on April 19th, 1775, at Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts. The, quote, shot heard around the world, as poet Ralph Waldo Emerson later called it. By the way, on my mother's side, I am related to Ralph Waldo Emerson. My mother's an Emerson, and my daughter's first name is Emerson. Anyway, Minutemen clashed with Redcoats, killing 73 British and losing 49 of their own. By June 17th, the Battle of Bunker Hill near Boston showed colonial grit, though they lost the hill but inflicted heavy casualties on the British. Enter 1776. Thomas Paine's pamphlet Common Sense, published on January 10th in Philadelphia, sold 100,000 copies, arguing for independence from monarchy. Sources like the National Archives confirm it swayed public opinion. The Second Continental Congress convened May 10th, 1775, but by spring 1776, momentum built for a break. On June 7th, Richard Henry Lee of Virginia proposed independence. This era blended Enlightenment thinkers like John Locke, whose ideas on natural rights, life, liberty, and property, influence colonists with growing secret networks like the Sons of Liberty, which was founded in 1765 in Boston by Samuel Adams. By the way, he did not make the beer company, but it did inherit his name. And here's why I find this absolutely fascinating. In my podcast interviews, experts highlight how economic gripes turned philosophical. It wasn't just taxes. It was about self-rule. But whispers of Masonic ties among leaders add a little bit of intrigue, setting up our conspiratorial bend. By June 1776, the Second Continental Congress was in full swing at the Pennsylvania State House in Philadelphia, now called Independence Hall. 56 delegates from all 13 colonies gathered, representing diverse backgrounds. Lawyers like Thomas Jefferson from Virginia, merchants like Benjamin Franklin from Pennsylvania, and planters like Edwin Rutledge from South Carolina. On June 11th, Congress appointed a committee of 5 to draft a declaration. Jefferson, John Adams, Franklin, Roger Sherman of Connecticut, and Robert Livingston of New York. Jefferson, at 33, penned the first draft in 17 days at a rented room on Market Street, drawing from Locke's treatises and the Virginia Declaration of Rights by George Mason, which was adopted on June 12, 1776. The draft proclaimed, "All men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." It listed 27 grievances against King George III, from dissolving legislatures to quartering troops in homes. Committee edits softened the anti-slavery language, ironic since Jefferson himself did own slaves, and debate raged. On July 1st through 2nd, Congress argued. John Dickinson of Pennsylvania opposed, fearing chaos, but on July 2nd, 1776, 12 colonies voted yes, and New York abstained. This was the actual independence vote, per National Archives historian John Furling. July 3rd and 4th were the final tweaks, and Britannica notes the preamble's philosophy echoed the Enlightenment, but grievances were quite practical. No women or enslaved people were consulted, and that turned out to be a historical blind spot. Key figures like John Hancock of Massachusetts, a bold signer who wrote his name large enough for King George III to, quote, see it without his glasses. Charles Thompson, the secretary who assisted. I love this because, as my guests point out, it was messy democracy, not heroic myth. But many delegates were Freemasons like Franklin and Washington, hinting at hidden influences. Comment below, what grievance against the king do you think hits the hardest today? Taxes, troops, or something else I'm forgetting? So what exactly happened on that sweltering Thursday in Philadelphia? Congress reconvened around 9 a.m. at the State House. After minor edits, they adopted the declaration unanimously around 2 p.m. New York still abstained, but later did join the other 12. And here's a myth busted. There was no mass signing on July 4th. Per the historical archives, only Hancock and Thompson signed the rough draft to authenticate it. The engrossed parchment, the fancy handwritten version by Timothy Matlock, was signed starting August 2nd, 1776, by 50 delegates, with 5 more later. Thomas McKeon of Delaware signed last in 1781. No bells rang. The Liberty Bell story is a legend. It cracked in 1846. Celebrations? Printer John Dunlap rushed broadsides that night, 200 copies, and one was read publicly on July 8th in Philadelphia, sparking cheers. George Washington had it read to his troops on July 9th in New York. And how about the weather? It was hot, humid, mid-80s Fahrenheit, per historical weather logs. Delegates like Caesar Rodney rode 80 miles through rain just to vote. In the Library of Congress documents, the day was tense. British ships loomed off New York, and treason meant hanging. And here's why this grips me. It's the pivot from colony to nation, but so human. Debates, delays, dangers, and now, my favorite part, the conspiratorial bend. Remember, this is plausible, and it's labeled as so. So first, myths. There was no July 4th signing party, no hidden map on the back like a national treasure, We can all admit that would be kind of fun and exciting. I think there's a third National Treasure movie coming out, I've heard. Anyway, we'll see. The Mecklenburg Declaration of May 20th, 1775 in North Carolina is debated, possibly a later forgery per American Battlefield Trust. The conspiracy? Freemason influence. 9 signers were Masons, including Franklin and Hancock per National Geographic. Founded in 1717 in London, Freemasonry emphasized Enlightenment ideals like equality and reason. Washington, a Mason since 1752, in Fredericksburg, Virginia, laid the capital cornerstone in Masonic regalia in 1793. And here's a plausible theory. Masonic networks aided coordination. The Sons of Liberty overlapped with lodges. Britannica notes that symbols like the all-seeing eye on the dollar bill, added in 1935, echo Masonic motifs, suggesting esoteric roots in the founding documents. Another? Illuminati ties. Adam Weishaupt founded the Bavarian Illuminati on May 1st, 1776, 2 months before. And this is purely speculative, but theories from books like The United States of Paranoia link Jefferson's ideals to Illuminati rationalism, though no direct evidence is given. Anti-Masonic hysteria in the 1790s accused them of infiltrating America, fueling 1800 election fears. Plausible blackmail or secrets. Some delegates had ties to smuggling or espionage. Franklin's Paris diplomacy involved spies. And avoid the fringe. No aliens or time travel. Stick to the secret societies shaping revolution, as in Whitney Webb-style networks, but historical. I find this fascinating because on my podcast, theorists argue the Declaration hid codes for a new world order, equality as Masonic code. Comment below, do Masonic ties make the founders more heroic or suspicious? Share your take. And what's the wildest July 4th myth that you have ever heard? So fast forward, the Declaration inspired revolutions worldwide, from France in 1789 to Latin America. Though flawed, it ignored slavery and women, but it evolved via the amendments. In 2025, it reminds us of fighting tyranny. The conspiracies, they highlight power's shadows, urging vigilance. Thanks for watching the Jeremy Ryan Slate Show. If this sparked your curiosity, like and subscribe for more history conspiracy blends, and visit jeremyryanslate.com for podcasts and more. I will see you next time.